Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so today's Dwamasi. It's also, is it the appearance or disappearance of Jagadish Pandit? Anybody got the calendar? Appearance. Okay, so there's a short bit of information about Jagadish Pandit, which I'll read, and then we'll go on to the Bhagavatam. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 11, the expansions of Lord Nityananda. So I won't read the Bengali out, but I can do it. Yes. Jagadisha Pandit Haya Jagat Bhavan Krishna Premamrita Varshe Yena Varsha Gan. Translation. Jagadish Pandit, the 15th branch of Lord Nityananda's followers, was the deliverer of the entire world. Devotional love of Krishna showered from him like torrents of rain. And in the purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, descriptions of Jagadish Pandit are available from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi Kanda, chapter 6, and from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 14. He belonged to the village of Yashoda in the district of Nadia, near the Chakdaha railway station. His father, the son of Bhat Narayan, was named Kamalaksha. Both his father and mother were great devotees of Lord Vishnu, and after their death, Jagadish and his wife Dukini and brother Mahesh left his birthplace and came to Sri Mayapur to live in the company of Jagannath Mishra and other Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya asked Jagadish to go to Jagannath Puri to preach the Harinam Sankirtan movement. After returning from Jagannath Puri on the orders of Lord Jagannath, he established deities of Jagannath in the village of Yashoda. It is said that when Jagannath Pandit brought the deity of Jagannath to Yashoda Gram, he tied the heavy deity to a stick and thus brought him to the village. The priests of the temple still show the stick used by Jagadish Pandit to carry the Jagannath deity. And I think we've got one more reference here. Okay, and it's just one. Okay, this is chapter 6 from the Adikanda of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. So this chapter describes the beginning of Nimai's scholastic pastimes. He's eating the foodstuffs offered to Vishnu on Ekadasi at the house of Jagadisa and Hiranya Pandit, and his various mischievous childhood pastimes. Sri Jagannath Mishra had Gaura Gopal's samskaras, or reformatory rites, of Hati Kadi, Karanaveda, and Chura Karan performed. Nimai could write the letters of the alphabet just by seeing them once. Within 2 or 3 days, he was able to write conjunct letters and words. He would continually read and write Krishna's names. Sometimes, Gaura Gopal pleaded for his parents to give him the birds flying in the sky, or the stars and the moon from the sky. When he did not receive these things, he began to cry. Then there was no way to solace the child other than by chanting the names of Hari. One day, however, Nimai did not stop crying in spite of everybody repeatedly chanting the names of Hari. When they inquired from Nimai about the cause of his crying, they learned that Nimai was displaying his pastime of crying in order to eat the foodstuffs offered to Vishnu on the day of Ekadasi in the house of 2 Brahmanas, Jagadisa and Hiranya Pandit of Navadvip. The relatives of Nimai solaced him by promising him Vishnu's remnants. Then they went to the house of these 2 great devotees and related to them the whole story. Considering Nimai an extraordinary personality, the 2 Brahmanas then gave him the foods that they had offered to Vishnu. As a result, Nimai stopped crying. Nimai exhibited various mischievous pastimes, like teasing his friends, quarrelling with them, and sporting in the Ganges at midday. The elderly men of Navadvip regularly came to Jagannath Mishra to complain about Nimai's behavior, and the young girls would similarly come to Mother Shachi to complain about Nimai's various mischievous activities. Shachi Devi, however, solaced everybody with her sweet words. After hearing about the disturbance caused by Nimai, Jagannath Mishra went to the banks of the Ganges at midday to appropriately punish his son. When Nimai heard that his father was approaching in an angry mood, he rushed home by another path. He told his friends that if his father inquired about him, they should say, "Today Nimai has not come for bathing in the Ganges." When Jagannath Mishra did not see Nimai at the bathing ghat, he returned home, where he saw Nimai decorated with marks of ink and looking as though he had not taken a bath. Jagannath Mishra was overwhelmed with love and could not understand the boy's trickery. When he asked the boy about the complaints, the young Nimai replied, "I didn't go to bathe in the Ganges yet, but they have nevertheless falsely accused me of misbehavior. So now I will actually bathe in the Ganges." Now I will actually misbehave with them. In this way, Nimai exhibited his clever pastimes and returned to bathe in the Ganges. Meanwhile, Sachi and Jagannath thought, who is this boy? Has Krishna secretly appeared in our house? So that's a summary of the chapter. I'll just see if I can find the few. There's 2 or 3 specific verses about Jagadish. Okay, so soon the time came for the Lord to begin reading and writing. At an auspicious time and on an auspicious day, Jagannath Mishra performed the ceremony for beginning his son's education. Then after a few days, all the family friends came to observe the ceremony of the child's ear piercing and shaving of the head, leaving only a shika. And just a short commentary there on the Karana Veda, or piercing of the ears, is part of the Churakarana Samskara. It also marks the beginning of hearing the Vedic literature, or becoming eligible to hear the topics related with the absolute truth by giving up hearing topics which are not related to the Lord. Churakarana is one of the 10 samskaras, or reformatory ceremonies. In this ceremony, the child's head is shaved with only the shika remaining. This ceremony was previously known as Vedagni Shika, and later it became known as Sri Chaitanya Shiksha. The inactive Mayavadis consider that keeping its shika is meant for karmakanda, so they shave off their shika in order to free themselves from karmakanda. Vedic Tridandi sannyasis, however, do not shave off their shika. They keep it as a sign of giving up of karmakanda and progressing on the path of devotional life. The Lord could write the letters of the alphabet after seeing them only once. Everyone was astonished to see this. Within 2 or 3 days, the Lord completed his study of the conjunct letters. He then constantly wrote various names of Krishna. Day and night, he enthusiastically wrote and read the names of the Lord, like Ram, Krishna, Murari, Mukunda, and Banamali. The most fortunate persons of Nadia saw the Lord of Vaikuntha study with other young boys. The Lord sweetly recited the Bengali alphabet, ka, ka, ga, ga. Everyone who heard him was captivated. In the commentary, the word Madhuri means sweetness or enchanting, and the word Bole means overwhelmed. Sri Gaurasundara performed wonderful pastimes. He would demand things that were impossible to obtain. If he saw a bird flying in the sky, he desired to have it. And when it was not given to him, he would cry and roll in the dust. Sometimes he would demand the moon or the stars in the sky. And when he did not get them, he cried and thrashed his arms and legs. Everyone tried to pacify him by taking him on their lap, but Vishvambara did not relent and continued to demand, "Give me, give me." There was, however, one sure remedy. Whenever he heard the names of Hari, he would stop crying. When everyone clapped their hands and chanted the name of Hari, he would be pacified and give up his restlessness. And then the short purport there, commentary. The word pratika means antiseptic or medicinal, and the word pashari means by forgetting. By this pastime, the Lord demonstrated both the insignificance of the unsatisfied material desires of the conditioned souls who never engage in kirtan, and that by hearing Krishna kirtan, all of one's desires and obstacles are destroyed, one's mind becomes fixed, and one's love for Krishna increases. As everyone chanted the names of Hari in order to please the child, the house of Jagannath Mishra appeared just like Vaikuntha. And in the purport, Sri Jagannath Mishra is non-different from Sri Vasudeva, the personification of pure goodness. Since the influence of the illusory material energy and the three modes of material nature are absent from Vaikuntha, it is a transcendental eternal abode of pure goodness and non-different from the Lord. In this abode of pure goodness, or Vaikuntha, the names and forms of Lord Hari are eternally present or manifest. The house of Jagannath Mishra, this is a quote, the house of Jagannath Mishra was not previously the abode of Vaikuntha due to the absence of Lord Hari's names. Later it was turned into the abode of Vaikuntha. So this is an imagination born from the mental speculation covered by the material modes of nature and therefore has no factual basis. The pastimes of the spiritual potency are eternally the pastimes of the spiritual potency. They are never pastimes of the illusory energy. And the pastimes of the illusory energy are eternally the pastimes of the illusory energy, wherein the living entities who are averse to Hari indulge in sense gratification. These are not the pastimes of the spiritual potency. A little technical there, but interesting. One day, in spite of everybody chanting the names of Hari, the Lord did not stop crying. They all said to him, "Listen, dear Nimai, come and dance nicely while we chant the name of Hari." The Lord did not listen to them and continued to cry. So they asked him, "Dear child, why are you crying?" They asked him, "What do you want? We will bring it for you, but don't cry." The Lord replied, "If you want to save my life, then go quickly to the house of the two Brahmanas. Jagadish and Hiranya are both great devotees, and I desire something from them. Today is Ekadasi and they are both fasting. But they have prepared varieties of foodstuffs for Lord Vishnu. If I could eat their offering, I'll be cured and able to walk." And commentary there. The word Bhagavat refers to the devotee of the Supreme Lord, a Vaishnav or an associate of Lord Hari. The word abhimata means desire. The word upahara means foodstuffs. The word shushta means peaceful or steady. So these two Brahmanas, Jagadish Pandit and Hiranya Pandit, lived in Gadruma-dweep. Their house was some distance from the Lord's house. On the day of Ekadasi, they arranged a large offering for the Lord. The injunction for fasting on Ekadasi is meant only for the living entities, but Lord Vishnu is beyond the jurisdiction of the rules and regulations that he has established. Since he is not bound to observe a fast on Ekadasi, and since he alone is the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, all types of foodstuffs should be offered to him on Ekadasi. On the day of Ekadasi, the Vaishnavas give up all kinds of enjoyment and do not accept the injunction for honouring prasad as on other days. But Lord Sri Hari, the protector of the devotees, accepts the foodstuffs offered by his devotees on this day. Hari Vasara. Sri Gaura-Narayan also revealed his desire to eat those foodstuffs. Alright, we'll stop there with that. Comments about Jagadish Pandit. Actually, there's another couple of verses I'll read. So hearing this impossible proposal, Mother Shachi lamented, "You are requesting something that is not sanctioned in the Vedas or in ordinary dealings." And the commentary, the phrase "Yei nahe loka Veda" refers to that which is not found in worldly tradition or in the Vedas, that which is not customary in worldly or Vedic dealings, or that which is beyond the scope of ordinary and Vedic etiquette. Everybody laughed on hearing the child's demand, and they said, "All right, we'll give you, but please stop crying." The two Brahmanas were great Vaishnavas and dearest friends of Jagannath Mishra. When those first-class Brahmanas heard the child's request, they became fully satisfied. In the commentary there, the word Santoshe Purnita means full of jubilation. Hiranya and Jagadish were the heart and soul of Jagannath Mishra. In other words, they were well-wishers with unbreakable friendship. The two Brahmanas exclaimed, "This is an amazing demand. We have never heard of such an intelligent child. How did he know that today is Ekadasi? How did he know that we have prepared all kinds of foodstuffs for the Lord?" We can understand that since this child is so attractive, Gopal must have manifested in his body. Lord Narayan performs pastimes through the body of this child. Sitting in his heart, Narayan makes the child speak. Thinking like this, the two Brahmanas brought the various offerings and happily gave them to Nimai. The two Brahmanas then said, "Dear child, please eat these foodstuffs. Our desire to serve Krishna is fulfilled today." And the commentary, in other words, the word sat, meaning ate or accepted, is found. We gathered these foodstuffs for offering to Krishna, and since Lord Krishna personally ate those foodstuffs, all of our desires have been fulfilled. When one is blessed by Krishna, he receives the intelligence to engage in devotional service. Unless one is a servant of Krishna, he cannot have such intelligence. So this will be the last comment on that, then we'll go in the Bhagavatam. So, commentary, Krishna as the super soul appears in the hearts of the living entities as the instructing spiritual master within to inspire one to serve the Supreme Lord. The living entities prove their intelligence by accepting that mercy of the Lord. No one other than the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord can ever exhibit such a service attitude. Another reading for the second line of this verse is Yari Kripa Hayatana Sei Janaya. Only one who is favored by the mercy of the Lord can understand him. Okay, so something interesting there. The Jagadish Pandit's pastimes with feeding Nimai on the Ekadasi day. Any questions or further comments before we move on? No. Okay. So. All right. So what verse are we on here? 2. Okay. Viduruvacha Sukhaya karmani karoti loko Nata sukham vanyad uparamam va Vindeta bhuyas tata eva dukham Yadatra yuktam bhagavan vadana Vidura uvacha Vidura said Sukhaya for attaining happiness Karmani fruitive activities Karoti everyone does so Lokaha in this world Na never Tai by those activities Sukham any happiness Va Anyat differently Uparamam satiation Va either Vindeta achieves Bhuyaha on the contrary Tata by such activities Eva certainly Dukham miseries Yat that which Atra under the circumstances Yuktam right course Bhagavan O Great One Vadet may kindly enlighten Na us. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Vidura said, O great sage, everyone in this world engages in fruitive activities to attain happiness, but one finds neither satiation nor the mitigation of distress. On the contrary, one is only aggravated by such activities. Please, therefore, give us directions on how one should live for real happiness. Purport. Vidura asked Maitreya some common questions, which was not originally his intention. Uddhava asked Vidura to approach Maitreya Muni and inquire into all the truths concerning the Lord, his name, fame, quality, form, pastimes, entourage, etc. And thus when Vidura approached Maitreya, he should have asked only about the Lord. But out of natural humility, he did not immediately ask about the Lord, but inquired into a subject which would be of great importance to the common man. A common man cannot understand the Lord. He must first know the real position of his life under the influence of the illusory energy. In illusion, one thinks that he can be happy only by fruitive activities. But what actually happens is that one becomes more and more entangled in the network of action and reaction and does not find any solution to the problems of life. There's a nice song in this connection. Quote, because of a great desire to have all happiness in life, I built this house. But unfortunately, the whole scheme has turned to ashes because the house was unexpectedly set on fire. The law of nature is like that. Everyone tries to become happy by planning in the material world. But the law of nature is so cruel that it sets fire to one's schemes. The fruitive worker is not happy in his schemes, nor is there any satiation of his continuous hankering for happiness. Vidura said, O great sage, everyone in this world engages in fruitive activities to gain happiness, but one finds neither satiation nor the mitigation of distress. On the contrary, one is only aggravated by such activity. Please, therefore, give us directions on how one should live for real happiness. Hare Krishna. So, just before I became a devotee, just before I joined the movement, I wouldn't say I'm a devotee, but I read an article in Back to Godhead magazine. It was written by Upendra Prabhu, who happened to be in the Sydney temple at the time when I joined. So he wrote this article that real happiness must be eternal. So as soon as I saw that heading, I thought, wow, this is so true. That unless what you have lasts forever, then it's useless. Real happiness must be eternal. There's no question of getting any happiness in the material world because it's temporary. Primarily, it has no value. It looks like it's Hare Krishna. It looks like progress is being made. There's so many so-called developments, material activities that the karmis are fully absorbed in, and they have no other time for anything else. But at the end of the day, or at the end of their lives, everything crumbles to dust. Nothing has any real value. Nothing has any element of satisfaction to it that can actually bring about a state of continuous happiness. We want to be happy. We work hard trying to be happy. We've set some goals that we think when we've achieved, then we'll be happy. But the end result is that it all is washed away in the waves of time. Nobody gets any satisfaction from their lives without serving or without attainment of something which is eternal. It's not possible to be happy in this material world, even if you're Lord Brahma, because it's all temporary. It all just dissolves into ashes. So the purpose of, just like we were reading there, that the head shaving ceremony of the Lord was performed at a certain time before he began his schoolwork. So that signifies, that's the sanskara. Sanskara means that it's a purification or an activity which brings about purification. And there are so many different samskaras. One is performed at the time of conception, another one is performed during the period of pregnancy, there's another one that's performed at the end of the gestation of the child, comes out, begins his activities. Then there are more other sanskaras to be performed, like this head shaving ceremony. And that signifies that this child is now ready to receive transcendental knowledge. We see in our own miserable material lives, at least most of us, we did not get the chance to have these samskaras. So the purification doesn't come about very easily, because the power of the chanting of the holy name, that suffices for everything that's been missed. But actually in the Vedic society, Varnashram society, there are so many functions, there's so many activities for or sanskaras, which gradually over the period of a lifetime bring a person to real happiness. Because by the time we reach the end of these lives, we should be absorbed in Krishna consciousness or thinking about the Lord, as Lord Chaitanya was doing there. He acted in such a way that all those personalities surrounding him had to chant Hare Krishna. Yeah. If they didn't chant, then he wouldn't stop. He would make a racket. And then finally, when everybody got overwhelmed by the noise and mischievousness of the Lord, then they would ask him, what is it that you want? We'll give you anything you like. So chanting Hare Krishna was the only way that they could satisfy him. The more he protested, then the more he the more he protested, then the more they had to chant in order to satisfy him. So that's a significant aspect of Lord Chaitanya's movement, right from the very birth. Of course, even before that, during the lunar eclipse, we see that the name of Lord Hari is continuously chanted. So Vedic culture means that you're surrounded by something worthwhile, or there's some potential that's there which can be brought out if you act in certain proper ways. So this situation with the pursuit of happiness, we have to know what happiness is, we have to know how to attain that happiness. Even if we know what real happiness is, unless we get proper guidance, and we need the shelter and the upliftment that's offered by the Vedic Varnashram system. It supports us throughout the period of our different stages of life. The state of the society that one lives in, that will nurture the external activities, nurture the internal benefit or activity. So here we find that Vidura is asking some questions from Maitreya, and he starts off by asking questions which are meant for the common man. It's a little bit like Arjuna and Krishna. Before he gets to the real business of the battle of Kurukshetra, they have a discussion. Those topics that are discussed, actually, a personality like Arjuna automatically knows what these questions are and what the results will be. So he and Krishna are having their discussion for others' benefit, not for their own. They don't require. But the ordinary common man, that speaking of the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, that's for the ordinary man to learn what life is really all about. Who they are, why they're here, where they're going, who is the Supreme, what is this material world, what is time. There's so many subjects that have to be understood. And in essence, Krishna touched on all of those important topics, and Arjuna responded so that ordinary men can actually understand the value of the human life. Otherwise, what's the use? If we don't know who we are, mainly we don't know who we are, but sometimes there's some exceptions. But if we don't know who we really are, then how can we understand what is happiness or not? The first thing that we have to do is to understand what I am. Then once we know what we are, then we can figure out how to proceed to a destination which offers us complete welfare and happiness unlimitedly. So Bhagavad Gita, or these questions and answers, the whole Vedas is meant to bring about a state of continuous happiness. Prabhupada, sometimes he was asked by news reporters, I'm just thinking of one time, and the news reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, what is your intention? Why have you come? Why are you teaching this knowledge? And Prabhupada, he immediately said, the goal in life is to become happy. That's all. It's a simple thing. But how to become happy, that's very difficult to understand without proper information, without proper examples to follow, instructions from the great sages and saints. Then we're adrift in the material world. We don't know actually what is real or what is not. The material world is an illusion, that's a fact. Illusion in the sense that it doesn't last. It disappears or evaporates like fog in the, or mist in the sunshine. So we're attempting, Prabhupada was attempting to show people or give people the information by which they can actually become eternally happy. Anything less than that is a waste of human life. So we're not interested in the so-called happiness of the karmis. They're not happy. They're in pursuit of some phantasmagoria. And the end result is that the human form of life is wasted, just like in Europe right now. So what is the so-called happiness? In the last 6 months, over 100,000 men have been butchered with bombs and so many other things. So what's the value of what they're doing? They think that they're going to become happy by obtaining or grabbing control of a certain area of land. But in the end, what will be the real benefit for them? So you have some land, you've got some power over a certain area or a certain number of people's lives. But at the end of the day, you're going to die. They're going to die, you're going to die. What's the benefit? We don't get any happiness from karmic activities whilst they're being performed. Nor do we get any happiness at the end of it. You die and you're gone. I was mentioning the other day that one of our God brothers, Sridhar Maharaj, because he's not with us anymore, but he had a bumper sticker on his suitcase. Life is tough, then you die. So we don't want to be in a position where this human life that we have is wasted. Confirmed. We want to be in a position where we can get the maximum benefit from our activities, and by our association we can become unlimitedly happy, eternally happy. So real happiness must be eternal. If it's not, what we're doing doesn't bring about an eternal result, then it's a waste of time. So here in this talks with Maitreya Muni, some truths will come out. Prabhupada, he refers to a nice song in this connection. So I always wondered, sometimes Prabhupada would sing a little song, which I think was what was it? There was some song about the sea and the ocean. I think Prabhupada learned that as a child at school, and sometimes they would sing that where appropriate. So here he's singing this, he says there's a nice song in this connection. Because of a great desire to have all happiness in life, I built this house. But unfortunately the whole scheme has turned to ashes because the house was unexpectedly set on fire. So, nice little tune, a ditty, to remember us that, yeah, you can build a nice house, but it's going to be burnt to ashes in due course of time. So, the fruitive worker is not happy in his schemes, nor is there any satiation of his continuous hankering for happiness. It just burns like fire. Samsara dava nalalita loka. This is a prayer we sing every morning to the spiritual master. The whole world is on fire. Sometimes it bursts out, sometimes it's covered, but the fire is there. And so we have to learn how to get out of that existence, fiery existence. And that's the business of the spiritual master, to give us information, to give us by their example how to live in such a way that we become, the house that we live in becomes eternal, not burnt to ashes. Okay, well, it sounds like that's the end of the class. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
Some people may consider that this attitude that material life.
Will you speak in the microphone?
Check. Some people may consider this attitude that material life is miserable, there's no happiness. It's a very morbid approach to the world we live in. When we see that, it might be a nice day, you go to the beach, have a nice swim, or go for a bushwalk, and there is some pleasure there. So how do we guard against being miserable, basically?
All right, it seems like there's some happiness there, but it's an illusion. It disintegrates. As soon as you stop the activity, the happiness that you've derived from it disappears. So it's only an illusory state to think that I'm happy in this material world, when at the next moment you could be on your way to another body somewhere else, maybe on this planet, maybe on another planet, but there's no real happiness. That's our illusion. Maya keeps us distracted. Oh, here's a nice beach, go swimming and surfing. Prabhupada, when he saw the surfers in Hawaii, we used to go every morning for a morning walk on a place called Magic Island. So it was like a flat area, and just off the side of the seashore there, the surfers were there, so many, 20, 30 people at a time. What were they doing? You get a piece of wood or a board, you run into the waves, you struggle like anything to get out beyond the breakers, then you turn around, then you wait for a big wave to come and catch you. You get that wave, it washes you into the shore, and that's it. Then you have to do the whole thing again. You have to keep on repeating it. So this is Prabhupada said they call it surfing, I call it suffering. So our position is like that. We think that we're getting a little happiness, but what is it? It lasts a few minutes or a few hours, a few days, even if it lasts a lifetime. Just like the Queen of England. She's just on her way now. Nobody knows where that soul has gone. Yeah, it was this. I saw there was a thing, they estimated that the wealth of the British royal family surpasses $35 trillion. So what can you do with that much money? I mean, you still have to pass stool every day. You still got to, pass. You've got to have 2 or 3 meals a day. The ordinary things that everybody else is doing, you also have to do. It's not you can't say that because I've got $35 trillion that I can guarantee now I'm not going to fall ill or lose whatever possessions I've got. Moving on, it's an illusion. They keep this protocol, being a royal family, but what does it mean, being a royal family or any other kind of family? They're not using their knowledge or their opportunity for real happiness. So we don't, we shouldn't be fooled by observing the so-called happiness of these other human beings that have no knowledge of the real use of human life. I don't know. What do you think?
understand the theory, but for me personally, I don't feel miserable. I feel generally very happy. I think misery is a lot less than the happiness. It's a simple thing like seeing Krishna in nature, going for a nice walk in the forest and appreciating Krishna's beauty. It's something we should do regularly and be aware of, rather than thinking everything's so miserable. It's a miserable world.
Well, we don't say that you have to be miserable. If you're actually seeing Krishna in everything, then you'll be happy. That's a fact, because Krishna is beyond time. But if you think that you can be happy, you walk through the forest, you see the fragrant flowers and the birds, so many animals, deers, that's all right. But if you separate them from Krishna, it has no value. It's only when you actually link everything up with Krishna that you actually become well situated. But otherwise, it doesn't matter where you go, what you do. If there's no eternal benefit from it, if there's no connection between you and the Supreme, you're going to die miserable. That's all. I've got a brother. He's my elder brother, and he's kind of on the way out. So he's been an atheist his whole life. So, and quite a blasphemous kind of person. So his life is miserable. He's just spending most of the time asleep. He doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't hardly talk with anybody anymore. He's just, his life now has got no value. And if you ever talk to him about God, then immediately it becomes blasphemous. There's no God, this is all nonsense, blah, blah, blah. He was a humanist, I think, at one point. So we should see Krishna in everything. Upendra Prabhu, he asked Prabhupada one time that you're telling us that we should always, we should see Krishna in everything. But what does that mean? We hear that Krishna is within the atom, is in between every atom. So what does it mean to see Krishna in everything? Does it mean that we see millions of little Krishnas playing on his flute, wherever we look? That's what we... No, Prabhupada said, he pointed to his shoes, and he told him, now, what do you see here? So he said, the shoes. So Prabhupada asked him, whose shoes? He said, well, they're your shoes, Srila Prabhupada. He said, so in a similar way, that's the way that we see Krishna in everything. We see the connection between the object and the observer. So we have to practice seeing how everything is that material nature that you're attracted to. You have to see that the real attractive component is not the fact that it's got a shape or size or smell or taste. These are the sensory input that we get, which we hope will give us happiness. But the real happiness comes when you go beyond the sensory input and you come to the platform where you understand the underlying basis for which everything is manifest. And that means you can only do that by seeing that everything is the energy of the Supreme Lord and is controlled and operated by the Supreme Lord. When you get that connection, then you can be happy. But if I give you something and you say, oh, this is for your enjoyment, and then the next second it's taken away from you, then where's your satisfaction? It depends on how we see ourselves and what our lives, the real utility of our human life is. All right? Okay, we have to finish. So it's 22. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.